In County Sligo on the west coast, Prannie Rhatigan's family has lived beside the ocean and from the ocean for generations. She's a doctor who also loves to cook, with seaweed. At low tide, she goes out to collect what she calls sea vegetables with her husband Johnny and daughter Kate. They're about to prepare a special meal. They cut the fronds carefully and never rip seaweed from the rocks.
I became involved with seaweed through my parents because they were hugely interested in everything that came from the sea. And we grew up just here on the coast in the northwest of Ireland, and it was just the natural thing to do. And my father, he was very interested in, the nutritional side of the seaweeds, so he didn't care that it wasn't fashionable back then to actually go to the sea and harvest. He didn't care about that. He just brought us, and we followed the seasons around.
600 species of seaweed grow along the Irish coast. About 20 are edible. In Ireland, you need a license to harvest it. The right to harvest in perpetuity seaweed from the bay comes with ownership of the old manor house where Prannie and her family live. The biggest pieces are hung up to dry outside on the washing line.
There is a very strong tradition of cooking with seaweed in Ireland, but a lot of it was forgotten. That all really died away, we think, because of the famine, when it became just a necessity and a shameful thing to be looking, scrounging around looking for food at the shore. But thankfully, that is all changing. And people are looking on seaweeds with new eyes. And when I take people out on walks and talks, people suddenly realise, my goodness, there are treasures here in the sea that we never thought that actually existed.
Seaweed is slowly gaining in popularity as a food in Ireland. Prannie Rhatigan has written a seaweed cookbook, and it's a bestseller. Today she's preparing several recipes from the book: savoury scones, 2 salads, a stew, and crunchy seaweed crisps.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they?
Yeah. Of course, there's a yuck factor with many things, but I think once people actually taste the food, suddenly they're transformed. Some of the seaweeds go really well with chocolate. So chocolate cake is, one of those real special treats from the book. The dullusk and brown bread ice cream. And there's a green tea and nori ice cream. And very many fruit salads and breads and salads, and even Christmas pudding. Our sea spaghetti goes into the Christmas pudding every Christmas.
First, the crisps. Prannie and Kate wash the seaweed and put it in the oven to dry. The washing line method isn't working today, as it started to rain. Eating seaweed may not have really caught on yet in Ireland, but Prannie is convinced it's a very healthy thing to do, and she is a doctor.
From the nutrition side of things, seaweeds are powerhouses of nutrients. You've got a wonderful mix of minerals, of vitamins, of trace elements, and many other substances that are actually of great benefit, of great health benefit, and that aren't in land vegetables. So our sea vegetables are a lovely mix and have a great synergy with land vegetables and with each other. And I think that's really important for people to know, that you've got a food that's so high in nutrients and yet virtually zero in calories.
First, she makes her famous dulisk and cheese scones. They're savoury and made with onions. Dulisk is a kind of seaweed common to these parts. It's also known as red dulse.
From a health point of view, I think seaweeds are going to be the next really, really big thing, because we're looking at the research and we're looking at seaweeds from an anti-cancer viewpoint, from the reducing inflammation in the body, from that point of view, and for lowering blood pressure and lowering cholesterol. So I think seaweeds have a lot to offer, and people aren't aware of that. They have a lot to offer for taste, and they have a lot to offer for health. And then a little sprinkling of that.
Before the scones go into the oven, Kate sprinkles cheddar and parmesan on top. Next comes some snack food, crisps made of bladderwrack, a green seaweed with air bladders on the fronds, and red dulse. Kate loves the crisps. They reconciled her with algae cuisine, and they're much healthier than potato crisps. The scones are ready. The other dishes will also feature a range of seaweeds, harvested just hours earlier on the rocky shore behind the house. Sea lettuce, sea spaghetti, and bladderwrack. People ate seaweed in Ireland in the mid-19th century during the Great Famine that resulted from the failure of the potato crop. But Prannie says it makes sense to eat it nowadays as well.
Those beetroot turned out fantastic. There's definitely back to the roots, yeah, back to the land, you know, from farm to fork and so on, and many other schemes and plans and organisations, and even more so the trend to actually grow your own food. And that's a wonderful thing to happen. And as part of that, I think seaweeds are coming in on that crest of the wave, if you like, of people getting back to nature, going out and doing wild harvesting.
Bright green sea lettuce, vinaigrette dressing, and beetroot make a tasty salad. The seaweed tastes salty. It's full of calcium, magnesium, and vitamin B. The salad is very healthy and easy to make. Johnny is making a stew of beef and vegetables and sea spaghetti. It has a delicate flavour, sometimes compared to that of clams, and it's rich in iron and vitamin C.
Smaller bits now. Maybe
Prannie makes another salad with strips of raw sea spaghetti and carrot with a peppery garlic dressing.
Okay, so pop the rest onto that.
So one vegetable in the salad comes from the garden and the other from the sea.
Reach over, so if we put the stew beside you. I feel that it's a really neglected vegetable. It needs somebody to actually get that message out there. And if that somebody is me, then so be it. I'd love to see seaweeds on the menus in many, many restaurants, and I'd love to see them available in supermarkets. And in Ireland in particular, I'd love to see children going off to school with a little pack of maybe the Dillis crisps in their pocket, like they did in the 1920s in Ireland. Who knows, we could become like the Japanese eventually, loving our seaweeds.
Prannie Rhatigan and her family are more enthusiastic about seaweed than most other Irish people are. But in times of economic hardship, seaweed is an abundant resource that's attracting greater attention. Perhaps it will soon be making an appearance on dining tables across the country.
Easily known you love them, that's why you make a good effort at cooking them. And